Hello and welcome everyone to HTMCast 13 and a half?
No, it's
14.
14. 14.
All right.
14.1.
The reason we're being so weird about this will be explained shortly.
This will either be an extremely long podcast or an extremely short one. So we decided to make an extremely short one and move all the E3 shit over to a different video.
On Monday, we'll be doing another podcast structured video. I'm not sure. We'll probably name it HTMCast 14 and a half or something like that.
Point two.
Yeah, something like that. Because there's so much E3 stuff that I had the thought that there's so much I want to talk about versus video games and nonsense and how much everyone sucks other than, was it Sony?
Sony won the show.
Yeah, I just can't.
If you want to skip that podcast, Sony won the show, end of story.
Yeah, pretty much. But in order, it'd either be like a 2-hour podcast between patch notes and E3 stuff, or we could probably make this one half an hour and the other one about half an hour and be a little bit easier. So that'll be up on Monday. And real quick, as of today, my best friend is graduating, so I just wanted to give a shout out to her. She is a little bit active in our YouTube channel and stuff. She's been playing LoL with us and has some important roles in some future projects we are currently working on, so.
We're allowed to do shout-outs on this podcast?
Why not?
Well, I'd like to give a shout-out to my mom. She's always been there for me. And I want to shout out to God. He's pretty cool. And I'd like to shout out to my dog, because technically dog is God backwards, so they're kind of the same person, but I feel like I should mention both.
So, Mishy, what are we going to talk about today?
I'd like to shout out to Papa Smurf for teaching me all of the values that I hold dear to this day.
Sorry, I want to see where this goes.
I don't.
Done.
Okay. So, going right on into my section, we kind of have a handful of
News or IP.
Shut up. We have a handful of things to talk about. First off, it took a month and a half, but Atrox is available.
Oh my god, he was available and then they took him off, but now he's available.
There was a
Atrox-
temporary glitch where you could buy him for RP, but that's it, and they quickly removed that.
People had a minor freak out that he was released, but you couldn't buy him with IP, and that this was Riot's new business strategy, but it was completely false.
So yeah, that's exciting. He's out. He is $975, or he is $7,800. Is that correct? If you want to buy him with IP,
Yes.
as well as he has his Just a Car Atrox skin available.
If you want to buy the bundle.
If the bundle's a thing. So yeah, it took long enough, and now I'm kind of just waiting because I feel like anytime now we're gonna get hints of the next champion. And then Ghost Bride Morgana has finally been made available at $975 as well. I'm excited, have already bought it, and I'm just waiting for this podcast to be over so I can go play a game with her. Sorry, guys.
Does that mean I get Fire Emblem when this is done?
No.
Oh.
Tybalt and I have been sharing Fire Emblem, if anyone cares. We've finally been playing Awakening because I've had it for the longest time, but we'll make that a whole different thing because I'd like to do a thing on that. But going into but patch notes, patch 3.8 notes.
This stuff is live, bitch.
First off, and I know everyone's going to freak out about this, but there have been some changes to Annie. Mainly,
oh my god, Tibbers.
Mainly at Tibbers, because Tibbers wasn't already a nuisance as it is when you got Tibber stunned. They buffed Tibbers. They increased the health that he has at later ranks. So at first rank he has 1,200, but at last rank he has 3,000 now versus the 2,000 he used to have. So that's going to be he's going to be a nuisance late game. His magic resist has also been increased at all levels, and the mana cost has been reduced on him. It's at 100 when it used to be 125, 175, then 225. It is 100 at all ranks.
It was halved and then some.
So that's absolutely insane. I'd love to see more Annie players. That's an absolute for sure. But I don't want to deal with her ult.
Tibbers is basically a 6th champion at this point.
Yeah.
Which he should be, because right now, before this patch, it was, oh, I Tibber stunned you, and now he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Maybe
take
now, if they buff Tibbers, they can weaken how strong that stun is.
big old
I don't know.
Tibber stun, and maybe you get 3 tower shots on him before he dies.
Yes.
So yeah.
So that's a thing. And moving right along into Ashe, they have changed her passive, and I believe Hat is the one who's going to be talking about that.
So they completely revamped her passive. I think it's still called Focus. Prior, her passive would slowly build up crit chance that was immediately applied on her next auto attack. This has been changed to Focus. She gains X number of stacks, increasing from 3 to 6 per second, or every 3 seconds, something like that. At 100 stacks of Focus, her next auto attack is guaranteed to crit. This Focus increase is paused after she attacks, but is restarted at whatever it was when she stops attacking again. And the base amount of Focus is equal to her crit chance. So the higher you build your crit, the quicker your Focus, like the more easily it'll climb back up. This change is pretty big for Ashe in lane. She can now poke a lot more efficiently at the enemy champions.
She's going to get more than just 1 crit at the very start of the game.
That was the big issue here. Past that, like, you get 1 crit every time you die, basically, or have to go back into lane, and it was kind of
Other
lame.
than that, Ashe didn't have a passive.
Yeah. So this is pretty cool. I personally liked it when I tried it. So
Moving right along to Hecarim. Yes?
yes,
Yes.
Okay. So my one comment about Hecarim is they are nerfing all of my junglers, and I'm not saying that I've been playing all the overpowered junglers because they've been overpowered, but there's a lot of people that I really like that are getting nerfed. So now that that's out of the way, they were kind of annoyed with Hecarim because it was so easy for him to target a squishy and they'd be dead. Something that I do like is his charge. I believe it's his Q. Am I correct? No, his Q is... Okay, never mind. It's his W. E.
his E is the charge.
I really wish they would put it in there because I don't know them by name. Ignore me. It can now go over terrain. He'll leap over it. But there's only a couple of spots where it will do this. They are only small ledges. So there's the ones like the river ramp ledges and then some of the very, very, very few jungle walls. So it's more than we had beforehand, but it's still only a couple. So it makes it easier for him to gank mid, pretty much, is what I'm getting out of that. That and have a little bit more movement in the jungle when trying to...
Just a little bit more maneuverability.
They also changed his ult. It no longer deals damage at the end of it. It only does damage on its way through, if that makes sense. And then the damage was increased.
I think so.
Is that what that... That's
This-
like... It
this
says
is-
rider damage increased, which is really interesting.
You know when Hecarim charges, he gets, like, ghosts that charge with him?
Yeah.
Those are the riders.
Oh, okay.
The ghosts will do damage now.
Oh, okay. Well, it says that it's just a ghost.
They're ghost riders.
This
So, yeah.
sounds more like a buff than a nerf.
It's a buff if you're using it right, but if you're using it the way you've always used Hecarim ult, then it's not going to be as much.
If you realize the change and you take advantage of the change, he'll be fine. But
Hmm.
okay,
They did some things to Karma, right?
yeah, they did, and I'm not exactly sure how karma works.
The biggest thing is with her chain. Her chain was really derpy to use because you would use it when you're low health and it would heal you over time. But the issue was you could be bursted through the healing, so you would let yourself get low health to get more healing, but then they would just nuke you before the healing actually did anything. So now, when you cast your heal on yourself, the leash, it will heal you for as long as you're attached, but it will also heal you for how it will heal you at the start, and then it will heal you for some over time. So
It's actually more healing overall.
Karma's going to be really dangerous because if she's low health, it's going to burst heal her for more because it's based off her ability power and how much health she's missing.
The initial heal is only slightly weaker than what her heal was previously, but her overtime heal is like the same amount, just over time. So it's actually a lot more heal than it used to be, I think.
And Karma's going to get a bit of that deceptiveness back to her, where it's like, oh, Karma's low health, we can just kill her, and then she would bounce back to full health with one of her freaking shields and kill everybody. You know, in Karma Dreamland.
That's a pretty cool change. Anything that gives her that more of a nature is pretty neat.
They redid Karma, but I really haven't seen any Karma players. So...
Yeah.
She's gonna get played. Especially with this, she's gonna get played.
It's more than she was, I suppose.
Yes.
You just have to wait for people to find her.
Alright, let's talk about Khazix. Number 2 jungler that I play that got nuffed. They changed his Q. I think what the overall thing they were trying to do is make it worth wanting to evolve all of his abilities versus only like 1 or 2 really being like good. It's more worth it to have the other ones now.
It's no longer evolve your cannon at level 6 or die. You can now have a couple more options.
They first off they changed his Q. The isolation bonus is now increased. So if the person, it still does a lot of damage no matter where the person is, but if they're alone, it does more damage.
I think the major difference was before it added on a specific number of damage, but now it increases the damage you deal by a percentage. So this will be weaker earlier, but a lot stronger later because the damage will continue to scale with how much damage you're dealing instead of stopping at a specific base.
Interesting.
And then evolving it adds an 8% missing health damage. So I guess that...
And that missing health damage will be increased by the isolation.
That hurts.
Yeah, if you're caught alone by Khazix, he's gonna just chop off half your health.
That's a big finisher right there, too.
And it's got a 3-second cooldown. He can just wreck your face off.
And then they changed his W, which is the one thing that I evolve first because I love the poke.
That's what everybody evolves first.
But that's not what everyone evolved first, like at the beginning of Khazix. So,
May I ask what skill people don't evolve?
I don't go. It depends on Q and R, depending on what you like. I tend to ignore R and Q. I don't know.
I never personally leveled up W, but
But
a lot of people chose not to evolve Q because they wanted the R to help them survive in team fights. But then the Q would help you pick off people.
What's nice about the W, and this is where people realized Khazix was broken, is that it slows people, as well as instead of hitting one person, it can hit up to 3 people. So you have the potential to hit 3 people, slow them, and that's major in a team fight.
Huh.
So that was a huge thing.
Okay.
And it did shit tons of damage.
All that heal too, right?
Yes.
Now, it slows without being evolved now, correct? That is the change. It says now slows targets hit by 20% for 2 seconds.
Yes.
So you don't have to evolve it, because that was the main reason why people were evolving it, was for the slow. Now that it already has a little bit of slow on it, it makes the other ones a little bit more useful. The mana cost was reduced, thank God, because I ran out of mana so fast on Khazix just because of my
I still
W.
highly suggested building a tier on a Khazix.
Oh yeah.
Especially now that isolation damage increases all of his damage. Put a Mura mana on his Q now. Oh my God. You find a squishy, they're dead. They're dead.
They increased the bonus attack damage ratio on his W. Just barely is what that looks like. It says, I'm not sure if this one is, evolution no longer consumes passive to apply effects. What's that exactly?
I think when you evolve it, you no longer get the triple shot on every shot. You only get it if you have your unseen threat passive up. So you'll get the triple shot only when you have your passive up.
Oh.
Wait, evolution no longer consumes the passive to apply the effects.
I have no idea.
I don't know how Khazix works.
Yeah,
We need to play this to understand.
His passive is unseen threat, and it affects him when he's not seen yet, right?
Yeah, he does more damage when... Okay, his passive is when Khazix is not visible to the enemy team, he gains unseen threat, causing next basic attack against an enemy champion to deal bonus magic damage and slow. So using his W when his doesn't consume his passive to apply effects. So if he uses his W and then auto attacks them, I think it still applies a slow.
All right.
That's what I'm getting out of it.
And then he can't use it during his leap.
Which is disappointing.
But
fair.
I hadn't mastered that trick yet, so I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get to use it, but oh well.
And then they changed his R, and the damage reduction has been increased while he's in stealth.
Making it more viable to take his R, because if you're against like a heavy AoE comp, that's going to save your life.
So, Lissandra.
Yeah, that's going to be yours, because
Oh, okay.
I don't know how Lassonde works at all.
They reduced the cooldown and the mana cost on her Ring of Frost. I think this was after they nerfed it like a lot, so I guess that's just rebalancing it back. Maybe they did it too much. I haven't read all this thoroughly yet. The cooldown on her Glacial Path, that's her hand, right? That's what it's called?
Yes.
Begins on initial cast rather than reactivation or end of the cast. So you get it faster. Like, you could use it faster. And then her R got a pretty big buff, I think. They added on a second of duration on the self-cast. Self-cast. So it's now equivalent to Azanya's. They increased the slow at later ranks, but they reduced the damage at later ranks. So they're just trying to get her to level out, it seems.
They're just perfecting her, honestly.
Which is fair.
Actually, I haven't seen a lot of Lassondras either, so...
Yeah. Nautilus?
Yep. Third jungler that they have nerfed for me. The problem with Nautilus is that when he gets fed, he gets fed. So what they did is they want to make him a less threat toward mid and late game. And his Titan's Wrath, which is his W, correct?
Yes.
They changed the damage so it's a tad bit more powerful at the beginning, but weaker at later ranks. That way it's easier for him to clear, but he's not a menace to deal with after when he gets fed.
But apparently it's going to be doing more damage anyways because there was something wrong with the AP ratio on it. It was lower than intended.
Huh. That's actually interesting.
So it's probably not a huge change overall anyways. Which is weird because they make it sound like it is.
And then my fourth jungler that they nerfed...
A small side note, Poppy. This is actually kind of important. They fixed her heroic charge, which is her stun where she grabs you and football tackles you into a wall. She's been having problems since the day League of Legends began, that you could tackle somebody into a wall and you would have gotten them for sure, but it didn't collision detect. So this is going to help Poppy out a lot because her collision detection has always been retarded. You can now continue.
I didn't even see that. I thought it was another bug fix.
Yeah, me too.
Good catch.
It is a bug fix, but it's a huge buff for Poppy because normally Poppy couldn't get a stun. It was always like a dice roll on if you would get the stun or not.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, on to Sejuani. I am very, very unhappy with these changes because I like Sejuani the way she is. But they changed her health, her maximum health ratio. They reduced it. The bonus. The bonus maximum health ratio has been reduced on her Q, right?
W.
Is that her W?
Is that? Yes.
Yes. Northern Winds, for those of you who know the names.
It has damage that scales off her health, and that's what they reduced. They reduced how much she scales off her health.
They reduced the slow duration on Permafrost, and then for her ult, they reduced the sun and slow duration. And that's what I'm sad about.
Which is fair. If you can land a 5-man one of those, which isn't as difficult as it probably should be, it's pretty damn
But
strong.
that's the big thing she has going for her.
It's a
If you
ranged
don't
removal.
land that, if you do not land that, you are screwed.
If you don't land that, you need to stop playing Sejuani.
So yeah.
They're not huge changes. We're talking like fractions of a second, but
Those matter in LoL.
Yeah.
It's just
The
not
game's measured in seconds.
just to make it not sound worse than it is, though.
Sona!
Yep. Last but not least, Sona. Take it away to what?
Okay, this is my actual first time looking at what the Sona changes are. They increase your base health and base armor, because when Sona starts the game, you could kill her in like 2 auto attacks, and it's pretty depressing. So this is definitely thankful.
Now you can only kill her in 3.
This problem was exacerbated by the fact that they removed Heart of Gold, which was one of Sona's main choices for building up health and survivability. So when they removed Heart of Gold, they made Sona so much more easier to kill, because she would have to build a Kindle Gem, or, build a Kindle Gem and sacrifice some gold revenue, or just deal with the fact that she was a lot squishier than she would be.
But doesn't she get Sightstone now?
Yeah, Sightstone. Fair enough. But still, they saw it necessary for this, because the problem was her power cord diminuendo was not reducing damage as it should have been. It's supposed to, when you hit an enemy champion with your power cord after you used Aura Perseverance, it would reduce their damage by 20%. That never worked. Just like with Talon Z, where it was supposed to increase his damage, never worked. So they're kind of tweaking and rebalancing Sona around the fact that one of her skills has never worked. They actually... God, I don't want to get into this. I think they buffed her base power core damage. It's higher at levels 1 and 2. So I'm gonna guess they buffed it. Because it was 8.
It's lower at level
It's
1 and
nerfed.
2.
Yeah, they nerfed it quite a bit. That's fair. That's fine. But, that's the power cord base damage. That's not the damage on her Q, which is what you would want to hit somebody with. So as long as her Q power cord is still strong, then she's still going to be a massive poker in lane.
18 times 10 is 180 plus 8. It's slightly buffed at later levels.
Okay, that's fine then.
We're talking very minute tweaks here.
Lowered the duration of Aura Perseverance's power cord. Okay, from 3 seconds from 4 seconds, which is entirely fair because now it actually works. And the bonus armor and magic resistance to self and healed allies is reduced. That's why they buffed her base armor, because now she's not going to get free armor from her heal anymore. So they kind of moved her stats around a bit, increased her health and increased her armor, because she's not going to get as much out of her Aura Perseverance.
I just want to say, I'm always amused when Riot fixes stuff that wasn't working as intended. Stuff like Talon and whatnot, it's like, oh, this champion isn't working.
And everybody flips out because you always thought it worked, but it never did. So you have to... It's so weird thinking back on how many times I've used power card diminuendo, and it's never actually worked.
And I imagine it's a fun bit of problem solving for them. It says we have to rebalance everything around this. It's just something I thought was amusing. That's it for all the champion changes, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we move on to the slow changes. Is that what's next?
Yes.
Okay, they changed the slow zones. They made it... What I'm getting, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that as soon as you leave the slow zone, you're immediately back to not being slowed.
Specifically, the slow refresh rate was dropped to 1/4 of a second. So that's how it does that. So 1/4 of a second after you get out of that slow, you're refreshed and out of it. So it's rewarding players who move quickly and react quickly.
Now, the people they changed this on was Singe's Mega Adhesive, Lux's Lucent Singularity,
Mishi, Singed, Lux, Gangplank, Lulu, Misfortune, Trundle, Varus, Victor, Vladimir. These guys had AoE slows, so now if you get out of these AoE slows, you will not be as slowed for as long after you got out of them. And as a specifics, they've changed Lux and Kog'Maw spells to apply a slow when they hit you with it. So if you get hit with a Lux or Kog'Maw slow and then immediately walk out of it, you're still going to be slowed because it applied a different debuff to you, as opposed to the debuff that you get from standing in the slow zone that will now be removed when you walk out. So if you're Lux or Kog'Maw, you don't have to worry about, hitting somebody with your slow and they just walk out. They will be slowed for sure for 1 second.
It's easier just to explain it like that, because if you've played those champions, you know they're AoE slows.
Yes.
Fine.
I'm sorry, Mishi. I'm just trying to pick up the pace.
So that moves us on to I'm sorry. I'm juggling a cat.
Do you want me to talk about these next ones?
Go ahead, because I didn't really do them that much.
So wall jumping has always been the bane of a lot of people's existence in this game. Often the times it was a roll of the dice whether you're going to fail flash over a wall or whatever.
I just want to say Lily's the worst person to jump over a wall with, because she's so hard to do it right.
Yeah. So they refactored how it figures out where both end of the walls are, and it'll try to path it around better. So you might be able to bounce around those corners and stuff without just derping into the wall.
I can't tell you how many walls I've derped into in my day.
I know. Specifically, like the corners of bot lane and stuff. Like if you're trying to head towards the purple tower right there, like get around that corner. It's such a pain. Sort of in the same vein, a lot of people with sort of jump attacks. I guess I didn't really understand this as well. Apparently, it's less derpy when using flash. Okay, so
I think I understand. Like Garen and Udyr, when Garen uses his Q and Udyr uses his E. Yes.
We're so bad at this today.
They will do a short hop forward when they apply the attack onto somebody. So if you I think I've experienced this where I flash and then I Q somebody as Garen. It gets a bit wonky.
Specifically, what they've listed was Jace's hammer jump, Singed's throw, Volibear's throw, and Skarner's impale. What's his impale?
That's his ult.
Okay. So if you try to flash out of these or something, instead of wasting the flash, you either won't cast or it won't be used up.
Oh, I know what it means. It's when you flash away from a Volibear or a Singed, and they still get the grab off on you, and they fling you behind them, even though you flashed away from them, and it shouldn't put you anywhere near that.
So
it like ignores your flash and drags you back the distance.
While putting it on cooldown.
Yes.
So you get your flash back if you get caught in these and you mistime it. And lastly, for Alistair, Lee Sin, Poppy, and Vayne's knockback spells, when you're using targeting indicators on someone with them, it shows the range of it, and then a little arrow past that showing how far they will be flinged and in what direction. So you'll be able to perfectly line up your Vayne condemns and whatnot, your Alistair headbutts, a lot better with this
unless
indicator.
you're using the quick casting mode.
Smart cast.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not using smart cast, you'll be able to see these indicators. It's just nice for lining up shots and stuff. What was next?
They removed Malady.
Oh yeah, I'm so sad about this. Sorry but I know what this change is.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. I don't know anything about. I don't even know what Malady does.
So Malady is an item. You should know it. Gives AP. It gives attack speed. It gives damage on hit, a base damage plus like 15% of your AP, and it reduces their magic resist for each hit up to a maximum stack. So they tore Malady apart. They gave the auto attack damage that scales off AP to Nashor's Tooth, and on Wit's End, instead of just raising your own MR, you're actually stealing it from your opponent on hit. So you get,
which is a nice bit of flavor.
So you get on MR, and the opponent's MR is reduced. They also made a slight change with this in terms of money. They reduced the price of the recurve bow, and they increased the price of Nashor's or something, just rebalancing all that stuff. But yeah, Malady's is gone.
Might actually build Nashor's on Diana now.
I loved Malady, and I guess I just have to accept that it's on Nashor's now, and I don't have to build an extra item, but it's still kind of sad because Malady was cool. It had a cool name and whatnot.
What are Noob Timo's gonna build now?
Hey, shut up.
Tee.
Alright.
Is that it for News Refuge?
Nope.
We have a lot of jungle stuff.
Yeah, jungle, some major jungle stuff. And since I'm the jungler of the team, I'll go ahead and try my best to weave through this. The most important thing to get out of the jungle changes is that everything spawns at a minute 55. No longer are things staggered, which means you can no longer start wolves and the AD carry can no longer get golems before they go into lane. And technically they can, but they are missing out on lane
They would be
experience.
so slow to lane. It wouldn't be worth it.
So because the major reason for that change is that advantage was only on one side. It was only on blue side. Purple side didn't get that luxury.
To specify, you can still start wolves. Like, you don't have to.
Yeah, but
It's just all at the same time, so you can.
in order to get a really good leash, it is really best to start blue or red because your people need to go to lane. They can't sit there for an extra 10 seconds to help you out. So that's the major thing. They changed the ancient golem, which is blue buff. The base experience granted was increased 220 to 340, which is a huge buff in my opinion.
It is.
So that is super, super helpful for getting off your feet and helping it.
They're basically giving you the experience you missed in those 10 seconds.
Yeah. As well as the same thing is happening for the Lizard Elder. The base experience is increased from 220 to 340. And both of them have a particle effect to show who the buff transferred to, which I have not seen, but I'm curious to see what that means.
Have you ever killed a wolf or a wraith from far away and you saw these little green orbs fly out of it? That's
what I've been picturing in my head.
That's what it is.
Okay. And then, which will be nice because have you ever had those situations where you're getting blue and then suddenly it's just gone and you don't have it and your jungler doesn't have it?
Oh, so you'll be able to see where it's stolen from in that case.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
That would be neat if it did.
In a perfect world,
nice.
yes. And then the young lizards for the Lizard Elder, the base experience is reduced to 10 from 40, which is pretty big. So even though Ancient Golem gets a buff, the Lizard Elder, even though it gets a buff, it gets a little bit of a nerf too.
Junglers who start blue will have more experience than junglers who start red, which is fair enough considering junglers who start red are Lee Sin and Shaco and immediately go to gank.
That's what I think I'm getting. They're trying to make it so the jungler actually jungles and then ganks. I think what League is trying to do is slowly start making the game a little bit slower because this is supposed to be a slow game and games end before you can even surrender.
20 to 30 minutes.
And it's supposed to be like 45 to almost an hour. I mean,
40 to 50
to almost an hour. Thank you, Tybalt. So I do appreciate that. And with the jungler, I mean, you can gank with blue, but it's not as useful as ganking with red, and it takes a little bit of the pressure off the lanes and everything. And then, because I could talk about this for days, they also changed the 3 items that the Hunter's Machete builds into. The Ancient Golems, it's got a unique passive now. The damage bonus to monsters is increased. So they just increased the bonus damage to monsters. So it just does more damage, right?
Yes.
No one's saying yes or no, so I'm just going to keep talking until someone stops me. Spirit of the Utter Lizard, they reduced the attack damage, and then they also did the same thing. Okay, so they did the same thing for the Butcher passive on all of them. They increased it. And then Spirit of the Spectral Wraith, the ability power has been reduced.
They're making it less good for laners and better for junglers because a lot of laners have been building these items and they want them to stop. These are supposed to be jungle-specific items unless you could use it for a very good reason as a laner.
And while we're talking about Hunter's Machete, just going to go ahead and mention that it is available on Twisted Treeline and Howling Abyss now, as well as its 3 upgrades. And then, if that's all you guys have to add to the topic.
What are you doing?
Just on jungle, I'm moving on. Not completely from my section, though.
I wanted to say Boots of Speed, Doran's Ring, and Doran's Shield, they all had their costs lowered, so you have options for like potions and stuff at the start. I don't think you added that to the list, sorry.
No, I don't think I did. So they the one thing that I'm super excited for, because I am not a person who plays ranked every single day of my life, They changed the league system to the point. What happens is, I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. The league system. When after a couple of days of not playing a ranked game, you get a message saying that you're inactive and that you will be losing LP. Well, the thing with that is you don't start losing LP for a couple of weeks. So people like me who played ranked and then waited a week. What I've been doing is playing like 1 or 2 a week. And then when I go to start the next one, it says that I'm inactive, and I go, "Oh no, have I lost LP?" Well, now they will notify you. So when you're about to lose LP, you'll get a message. So it'll still mark you as inactive, but you do have a while, and it will warn you. But if you don't get on League for 2 months, the notification isn't going to be that useful.
Is that it? Oh, but they have one last topic for you.
2 last.
2?
Yep. They updated the player behavior system. Now when you are doing badly, you'll get a message saying
if you get an uncharacteristic number of supports and a number of reports in a short duration, they will send you a message saying, "Hey, get back on track."
An uncharacteristic number of supports.
Yes.
I hate when people go all support teams. Man.
Dude, I hate that I have to support everyone in Fire Emblem. It's so stressful. That's uncharacteristic amount of supports if I've ever heard it.
But yeah, Riot will be like, "Hey, something wrong? You were kind of negative that game."
You're being a douche, bro. What's up?
You used to be so cool. I thought we were friends.
Basically, it's what they're saying.
You've changed, man.
And then there's been some PvE changes. The only one I really, really, really want to talk about is the change to the Draven's passive.
Welcome to the League of Draven.
They're actually naming his passive that, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because that's amazing in my opinion. Do either of you know how his new passive works, though? I could try to...
Every time he kills a minion or he catches one of his spinning axes, he will get Adoration, which is a buff. And this is the adoration of his fans. And then when he kills somebody, he gains bonus gold based off how much adoration he has gotten. So the idea is that in lane, you would farm up a bit, get a ton of adoration, and then try to go for a kill on the enemy carry to get a huge gold lead. Because you get a big boost of gold from the adoration. We don't know any of the fine numbers yet, though.
Basically, you're just getting gold for what you're supposed to be doing in lane. Getting farm and then killing people.
But Draven makes it look good.
And that's it for my section.
Are we done? Are we finally done? Can we move on to my section?
No, we're going to hat section.
Tell us farm like that. Okay, so Morello said that he has plans for Sivir. And that's all he said.
Moving on.
He said they have plans for Sivir, and the only thing that is not on the table is increasing her range. They are going to keep her short range, and they're going to buff her in other ways, which is perfectly legitimate because it is now kind of characteristic of Sivir to be the lowest range AD carry, but to be perfectly fine by that, because when she does get in range, she melts your face off.
Kind of like Quinn.
Kind of, yes. Then Iron Stylus went on and talked about monster girls, because we don't have any. The closest thing to monster girls we have are Anivia, who is just a mythical creature with a female voice, and Cassiopeia, who's kind of doesn't count. People want more like a feminine monster as opposed to a hot chick who is also a monster.
Maybe something like Elise in spider form. Something like that.
Yes, Elise and Zyra. They don't want any more Elises and no more Zyras. This is partially because they're kind of really boring. They are kind of really, really boring, and they could do so much more.
Their only purpose is to be hot.
Yes. Iron Stylus is like, oh, if we could go back to do Zyra, we would give her like a big rose blossom as a dress and blah blah. And we turn Elise into a Drider, which is like a spider centaur thing. But now they can't do that because all their stuff is already set in stone and la di da di da.
So bring on the female Cho'Gath.
The other problem is that making skins for Zyra and Elise is really difficult because they are girls in costumes. And when you take away the costume, they don't have anything significant to them other than what they were wearing as the costume. Like, Elise in plain clothes and Zyra in plain clothes are going to look a lot alike because they don't have very many distinctive features. I mean, they both even have red hair. So doing skins for them is really difficult, and they're just like, screw it, I'd rather just make a more interesting champion than try to wrestle with skins for all these hot chicks. And yeah, so be prepared for monstrous female monsters, those things that aren't Zyra and Elise.
Thankfully.
If I like trains and I like rails, then I'm not gonna like this segment. Derailed!
All I have to talk about this week is Minecraft. We've had a couple of...
Because all the E3 stuff is going to the other video.
Oh, believe me, I have so much to talk about this week.
Oh my god, we're going to have the best part.
Guys, you don't even know. But Minecraft is not E3 related. It's the only thing I have to talk about that's not E3 related. Recently, since the last podcast, they enabled support for a popular game type called Ultra Hardcore mode. This was something that you had to have server plugins or something to do. For anyone who doesn't know what this means, Ultra Hardcore that is, it is a game type in which a set number of players are spread around the world randomly. Health regeneration is disabled. You can only regenerate health by drinking health regen potions or eating golden apples. And it's supposed to be like a fight to the death with everybody else in the world.
Dude, I cannot wait to do videos on this.
Is this that Hunger Games but with Minecraft thing?
It's basically like Hunger Games, but Ultra Hardcore mode is sort of slightly different. I can't really explain how. But yeah, before you had to do plugins to do that, you now have support in game. There's a new game rule that lets you turn off health regeneration. There is now a new command for command blocks called /spawn spread or something, which lets you input parameters to randomly teleport players around the place, so you have a nice start. And they've rebalanced potions or stuff or whatnot. For those who like that game type, that whole like server of people fighting to the death with no health regen, you can now do that in vanilla. So that's pretty cool.
I would love to do some videos on that.
You kind of need a lot of people for it.
But we have a lot of people.
I'm talking like teams and stuff.
They're all really bad at the game too, so we'll win.
Yeah, maybe. There's another new game rule to... I guess you can freeze the day-night cycle if you'd like. I guess that's for maps or whatnot. It's just kind of a nice thing. So if you want to play like all at night or all day or whatever, it's there. And I guess their biggest change is they've been leading up to this reformation of texture packs into something they call resource packs. And it's finally been implemented in the snapshot. Texture packs will no longer work with Minecraft. They are using these new resource packs because they're trying to make this big change to for their future API, what they're doing. So none of your texture packs will work, but they have a tool on their website that lets you convert texture packs into this new format, so they're not completely gone. I'm not sure what this means. I don't know what they're doing with the API, but it's stuff that needs to be done, so yeah. And that's it.
Podcast! First part.
Yeah, I do want to make a quick mention as to things that we've been working on the channel, if that's okay with you guys.
No, I don't want to talk about the channel.
You're the one that wanted this short.
Especially not on the channel.
But I'm going to make this quick. Some projects that we are working on currently, for those of you who are interested in possibly not subscribed to us and watching this for the first time. Major projects we have going on is we've been doing a Minecraft Adventure series. Timble's been doing his own Through the Ranks series where he plays just ranked games and posts them up, does commentary over them, talks about what could be improved, and hopefully it'll be his adventure up to as high as he can go. We have our podcast. We have Age of Wushu, which is something we have just started. It's an MMO that we haven't really heard much about. We've been playing that. And then another MMO that we've been playing is Neverwinter. And that's pretty much like the four major things that have been going on the channel.
And as we said multiple times in this podcast, we will be doing HTMCast 14.2 E3 edition.
And when that is up on Monday, I will be putting a link in this video. So if you're watching this video like 10 weeks from now, the link should be there. If not, don't subscribe. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys.
This has been Ty.
I'm Mishy.
I'm Hat.
Have a nice weekend.
Goodbye.